As the Aster drive aboard the Killer Queen spools down, the swamp-laden planet of Tempora Hasta comes into view. From her seat in the Queen's cockpit, Lida Blaster studies the planet and the inhabited biodomes on her quick screen. Beside her, Angelus Parvor, her bodyman and pilot, locks in a course toward one of the domes and then looks at her. He says, "We're making good time. Did Secretary Farshell give you any indication of what the job is?" Lida smiles. "The Secretary indicated their organization had sprung a leak." "Wonderful," Angelus says. "Corporate espionage. Absolutely my favorite." "You don't have to do anything, you know. I'll handle it." "Right," he says. "That's what you always say. And yet I still have scars from that shootout on Bresh last Decat." Lida shrugs. "How was I to know there were 3 interested parties?" A chime on the console sounds and Angelus silences it. "We're receiving landing coordinates. It's on the outskirts of the dome." "Secretary Farshell doesn't want our arrival to be too obvious." Angelus obliged the man. "Take us in quietly." The Killer Queen, modified pleasure yacht, arcs toward the docking platform with the grace of a Trevelyan hawk. As Angelus settles the ship onto the platform, Lida rises and checks her gear. Despite the dome providing a safe atmosphere, Lida prefers to never be far from the safety of her deep skin, which is sealed tightly over her flesh. Over that, she wears dark-colored trousers and a dark jacket. Her twin Rhinax laser pistols are magnetically locked to plates embedded in her trousers, and her jacket hangs low enough to cover the utility belt full of trinkets and tools around her waist. As she leaves the cockpit, Angelus says, "Be careful, Lida." She pauses long enough to give him a wide smile and says, "Oh, you know that's just not my style." Welcome back to Errant Adventures. As always, I'm your game master and solo player, Steve Morrison. Today is a very special episode. You see, it's my birthday, and I thought I would give you, dear listener, a birthday gift from me. I started Errant Adventures as a way to tell stories, and today I'm introducing you to a character who has lived with me for many years. I've written short stories and a couple novellas, and have plans for many more, but other than a few select readers, these stories have never seen the light until today. Lida Blaster has been many things: a mercenary, a liar, a pirate queen, a thief. She makes her way through a universe beset by uncertainty and confusion after the downfall of the galaxy-spanning empire that ruled the known universe for 3,000 imperial solar cycles. With her trusty pilot, Angelus Parvor, and her ship, the Killer Queen, Lida Blaster will do just about any job, and she will most certainly leave chaos in her wake. To realize my sci-fi universe, I'm making a triumphal return to Ironsworn Starforged, and I couldn't be more excited about it. While this is a standalone story, there are many more tales to tell in my universe. Just you wait and see. But for now, please enjoy this special bonus episode, Lida Blaster and the Domes of Tempora Hasta. Lida Blaster emerges from the Killer Queen onto the docking platform. there is a small shuttle that is parked close to the docking platform. And as she emerges from the ship, she can see that there are a couple of people waiting by the shuttle. She approaches, and one of them, a man dressed in a finely cut suit, steps forward and says, "You must be Lida Blaster." Lida looks up at the man and says, yes, I am. And you must be Secretary Farshell. Tell me, Secretary, what can I do for you? The secretary says, I have it on good authority that you are discreet when handling sensitive issues. I certainly endeavor to be discreet, Secretary. Tell me, what is your problem? He says, I represent Cavor Structures. It is the corporation that creates and maintains the domes here on Tempora Hasta. We maintain habitable domes on many worlds, but Tempora Hasta is our biggest client because there are so many corporations here doing research, and we are here to facilitate life on this planet. The problem is that over the last few weeks, we've had some information leaked out of our corporation that is beginning to cast doubt on our ability to maintain the domes here on Tempora Hasta. Lida says, and what kind of information is that? He says, some of the security protocols and maintenance records for our domes have been leaked to various corporations on the planet, and they are beginning to take an interest in maintaining their own domes. As I'm sure you're aware, each corporation essentially purchased its own dome from us, and we maintain all of them for a modest fee, of course. Now, if the corporations are able to begin to maintain their own domes, then my company will lose a considerable source of income. I see. And you want to know who is the one that is giving away your trade secrets? Yes, that is so. It seems fairly straightforward. As such, I will offer you my standard rate. For a job like this, 100,000 rue. I'll take half up front, of course, as is standard. 100,000? Oh, that's quite a sum. As you were just telling me, Secretary, the amount of money that you will lose if you do not plug this leak in your organization will, I'm sure, far outpace that amount. It's really not that much to ask, especially since you contacted me. I assume that you know about my activities. You know my resume, if you will. I'm sure that you understand and will agree that 100,000 is really not all that much for my services. Many have paid much more for much more interesting jobs. And we are going to jump right in as we're going to do our first move of the session, and this is going to be a compel. So when you charm, pacify, encourage, or barter, roll plus heart. If you threaten or incite, roll plus iron. Or if you lie or swindle, roll plus shadow. Now, Lida is not lying or threatening here. She is simply trying to convey that her fee is fair and that she is worth every rue that she asks for. So we're going to roll plus heart on this. And because Lida Blaster is a heroic figure, I'm using the heroic stat array from Ironsworn. So she has a 4 in heart, 3 in shadow and wits, and 2 in edge and iron. So I'm going to roll my d6 for the action die. I'm going to roll my 2d10 for the challenge dice. I'm going to add my +4 heart to my action die, and we are going to go right into our first roll of this adventure. A 5 on the action die, a 3 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So on a strong hit, they'll do what you want or agree to your conditions. Take +1 momentum. So my momentum moves up to 3, and the secretary says, very well, I understand what you're saying, and I agree to your terms. 100,000 rue, 50,000 up front, and 50,000 when you have turned over the name of the individual who is giving away our secrets. It's agreed then. I will take this job. I'm going to now roll Swear an Iron Vow as Lida has agreed to take this contract. This is going to be when you swear upon iron to complete a quest. Write your vow and give it a rank. So we're going to call this Find the Leak at Cavor Structures, and we are going to give it a formidable rank. Now, in my universe, swearing on iron, this sort of very thematic Iron Sworn move is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to treat this as anytime a character agrees to a contract or makes some sort of agreement, we'll roll the Swear an Iron Vow. And, maybe we lose a little bit of the thematic sort of grist of swearing on iron. But since swearing on iron and iron as a very fundamental aspect of the universe is not a part of my sci-fi universe, I'm just going to kind of hand wave this a little bit. We're still going to roll the move, but we're going to flavor it a little bit differently. Also, I just have to say, it feels so good to be back playing Starforged. I'm thoroughly enjoying my current season, but there is something wonderful about coming home to Starforged. So let's roll plus heart on this Swear an Iron Vow as Lida has taken this contract. Here we go. 7 on the action die, 9 and a 6 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, you're determined, but begin your quest with more questions than answers. Take +1 momentum and envision what you do to find a path forward. So our momentum is going to go up to 4, and I think that makes perfect sense. So she has taken this contract to find the leak that is leaking information from this corporation, and she is going to look into this, but she doesn't really have much to go on from the start here. Of course, the corporation doesn't really know who it is yet. That's all part of the reason why they're hiring her. So we are going to have to spend a little bit of time gathering information. So this is when you search for clues, ask questions, analyze evidence, or do research, roll plus wits. Now, before I roll that, Lida is going to go back to the Killer Queen and is going to consult with Anglist. They are going to lock down the ship and then head into the town here in this dome. So Tempora Hasta itself is not a friendly environment outside. So these domes are built to keep breathable, livable environments available for people. And as I mentioned before, a number of corporations have made bases here and essentially use those bases as research facilities, and each of them have different domes. They have their own individual domes. Now, this dome belongs to the corporation that Lida is working for, Cavor Structures. So there's the corporate offices, there's all the construction, maintenance, buildings, all the things you would expect from a corporation complex. But there's also essentially a city here. There are people who live here, the families of the workers. There are obviously other businesses that have come in to provide food and clothing and all these other things to the people who live here. As Lida and Anglist head into town, they find their way to a bar, and they begin asking around about Cavor structures, and they are going to begin to try and gather information and figure out exactly what's going on and where to start looking. So we're going to go ahead and gather information. When you search for clues, ask questions, analyze evidence, or do research, roll plus wits. So Lida's wits is +3, and I'm going to roll my action die plus my 2d10s. Here we go. 9 on the action die, 2 10s on the challenge dice for a miss with a complication. All right, we are getting off to a start here. So on a miss, your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. Pay the price. Let's go to our pay the price and roll it up. 11. You face a tough choice. Interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and see what kind of choice this is. Action and theme. Here we go. 88 on the action is share. And 38 for the theme, share freedom. Okay, so Lida enters this bar, begins asking around about the Cavor Structures Corporation and about, just basic information. She's trying to get her fingers on the pulse of this place. And I think what she discovers is that there is an undercurrent of discontent in this place. And as she is asking around, a lot of the people that are here are talking about Cavor as if it's this really toxic work environment, and they are just basically all complaining about it. And she starts to hear some talk about a union beginning to form to try and get some better conditions for the workers. And Lida, hearing this and seeing the struggle that the people living in this town are having, I think she feels a little bad for these people. And I think there's a tough choice here of, does she just continue doing her mission and ignore the sort of worker reforms that need to go on here, or does she choose to try and maybe still complete her mission but help out a little bit on some of this stuff? So I'm going to ask the Oracle. I think it is likely that she is going to help the workers here, because here's the thing about Lida Blaster. She's an intergalactic thief. She's been a pirate queen. She is many, many things. But I think over her years since the downfall of the Golden Empire, she has been around the galaxy, around the universe, and she has seen the struggles that people have undergone in these towns, especially under the thumb of the corporations. And with the Empire essentially gone, there is no one to hold corporations in check anymore. And so I think it's likely that she is going to help them out. So this is going to be 26 or greater on our D100. 75. Yes, she is going to help them out. So she is looking around, watching all this. Anglist is sitting next to her. He's ordered a Calhoun's whiskey, Calhoun 10-year, and is sipping on it as she is listening to the people in the bar talk about the corporation. How is she going to help them? So I think this is what it looks like. So she's sitting there listening to all of this stuff going on, listening to the conversations around her. And as she is sitting there listening, the door opens and a few individuals walk in, and they are dressed in corporate garb, and they are wearing essentially Cavor Structures security labels on their uniforms. And they start pushing around some of these people, and it starts getting a little rowdy in this bar. And I think Lida is going to move out of her seat. She is going to make her way through the room, and there are two people in particular. There is a woman on the one side who is, I think, middle-aged. She is wearing a worker's uniform, maybe like a maintenance uniform, and she's been one of the ones who has been kind of talking up this mobilization of the workers. And then there is this guard who is a little bit younger, maybe like mid-20s, who is now like getting into her face and is like shouting at her to shut up and to go back to work and to stop complaining about the corporation that feeds and houses her family, and that she should be more grateful for what the corporation has given to the workers. And they're just going back and forth, and it's starting to get more and more tense in this place as this heat is beginning to rise, as the workers are getting more and more frustrated, and these security personnel from the corporation are beginning to look more and more uneasy, and a couple of them are fingering their like stun batons as if they might draw them and turn them on these workers. And Lida slides in between these two opposing individuals who are essentially standing in the middle of the dance floor shouting at each other as the dancing and everything has stopped. And she says, "Now everyone, please calm down. There's no reason for this. There's no reason to be at each other's throats. You, young man, I don't know why you think that she is unable to complain about harsh conditions. And you are clearly much more experienced than this security personnel. Please, just go back to your drinks and let's not cause anything that is going to create problems. You're trying to fight each other when really the corporation has the money to offer you better pay and can provide its people with better services. You don't have to be opposed to each other. You can be on the same side." And she's going to try and use compel to talk these two people down from the conflict that is quickly rising. She's trying to pacify, and so we're going to roll plus heart, which is +4. A 5 on the action die and 2 4s on the challenge dice, which is a hit with a match. So we have gone from a miss with a complication to a hit with a match. So I think for the complication, we can say that there's probably someone in the bar that is going to report this to the corporate leadership. And so it may create some issues for Lida down the road with the secretary, but we have instead here a success with a match. So the strong hit is going to increase her momentum up to 5. And what might the match the opportunity be here? I think it's probably that they actually both realize that she's correct. that she is accurate in telling them that they are basically on the same side and that they should, rather than fight each other, they should try to work together. And so they are, I think, going to get a drink and talk through their differences a little bit more reasonably. And as such, the rest of the security personnel kind of, back their hands away from their stun batons, and the tension in the room is diffused. Now, Lida faced this complication here. I think she's going to go back to her seat. She's going to settle in with a drink while Anglist is sitting there. She's going to call up her queue, and her queue is this device, almost like a wristband or something like that, that is on the wrist that projects a holographic screen that the user can manipulate. It's basically a personal computer. So she calls up her queue and is going to begin attempting to gather more information. Instead of talking to people, she's going to try and log into the Cavor Corporation's computer systems and see if she can find some evidence of tampering on that side of things. So I think, first of all, she's going to attempt to secure an advantage, and this is going to be plus wits, as she is using her expertise to try and gain a little bit of access to their computer system while she is looking for this information. This is going to be plus wits, which is plus 3. 9 on the action die, 2 10s on the challenge dice for another miss with a complication. Okay, so on a miss, you fail or your assumptions betray you. Pay the price. So let's go ahead and roll our pay the price. These challenge dice have really got it out for our dear Lida Blaster. 34. Something of value is lost or destroyed. So I think because this was a secure an advantage, she was trying to get into the computer systems. She is going to lose her opportunity to access the computer systems of Cavor Corporation remotely. So she tries to get in, but the security on it is too advanced for a remote hack. So she's going to have to actually go to the corporate headquarters and try to get in if she wants to continue on that direction. And I think because of that, I'm going to, and because of the other part of it too, I'm going to start a clock. And I think this clock is going to be Cavor Corporation cancels the contract. Because as she does stuff, there's a good chance that she's going to end up causing some issues that they are going to frown on. So I'm going to make this an 8-part clock. Okay, so I'm going to, as the complication there, I'm going to mark 1 tick on that clock as she has triggered a security alert at the corporation headquarters, but it's not directly tied to her as of yet. So instead of going right into another gather information, I think Lida's going to head out of the bar, and it's probably the time of day. I'm not actually sure what time of day it is. So let's ask the Oracle, because that seems like a reasonable thing to do. Is it towards the end of the day? I'm going to say it's 50-50. 97 is a yes. Yes, it is towards the end of the day. So Lida leaves the bar. Anglist comes with her, and they return back to the Killer Queen, where they are going to sleep for the evening, and then they're going to head out again in the morning. I think this time Lida chooses to go by herself. She tells Anglist to stay with the ship and to stay out of trouble, effectively. And she is going to head into the corporate headquarters of the Cavor Corporation. So Secretary Farshell hired her basically outside of the purview of the corporation because he wasn't sure who was giving away the information and how far it went and who could be trusted. So she doesn't really have any official standing with the corporation. So when she arrives, she is going to have to try and talk her way in. And I think she does that by going in, and she is going to pose as a representative of an organization. So before she leaves the Killer Queen, she changes into a business suit effectively and hides her weapons away. She is going to put on a nano mesh wig that will cover her own auburn hair. And she's going to put this nano mesh wig on that is platinum blonde. And she is going to pretend to be the Duchess Demetria Vendare, a high-ranking corporate employee of the Titan Corporation, a weapons manufacturer that does actually have a base on Tempora Hasta. So she's going to enter, she's going to approach one of the visitation desks, and she says, "Yes, you there. I do not have an appointment, but I am the Duchess Demetria Vendare. I am here to talk with someone about some information I received on a error that was occurring in our dome. I need to speak with someone immediately, as it is causing issues with a visit we are expecting from a prospective client." And she is going to try and lie her way in. We're going to roll plus shadow, and this is +3. Here we go. 7 on the action die, a 1 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So as above, but their agreement comes with a demand or complication. Envision their counteroffer. Okay, so I think the complication is that she gets a meeting with whoever maintenance person that she needs to talk to, but it ends up actually being that woman from the night before, and she is talking with that woman, and there is always a chance that this woman is going to recognize her as the person who sort of diffused that conflict the day before, looking very different. And so she's going to get in, she's going to talk to this person, and I think because of that, she's also going to try and surreptitiously hack into the computer system now that she's inside the building. And so because of that, we're going to gather information, but I think we're going to roll good old face danger with Shadow as she is trying to surreptitiously hack in. Can she get away with hacking in while having this conversation with the maintenance worker of Cavor Structures? Let's find out. We're going to roll +3 here. 4 on the action die, a 2 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. That is +1 momentum. That takes us up to a momentum of 6. And yes, Lida Blaster is able to surreptitiously hack into the data systems of Cavor Corporation. And now we're going to, once again, attempt to gather information by searching for clues within the digital matrix of this corporation. Rolling plus wits, which is +3. 5 on the action die, a 4 and a 9 on the challenge dice is a weak hit. So on a weak hit, the information provides new insight, but also complicates your quest. Envision what you discover, then take +1 momentum. So momentum is going to move up to 7. And I forgot to mention this before, but I have the agent path as one of my assets, which is when you make a move to break into a secure site, infiltrate a protected area, or hack or manipulate a secure system, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So I think that would have applied to the face danger. Since I got a hit, the +1 would not have made a difference to turn that into anything else because it was already a strong hit. But I do get +1 additional momentum, so I'm going to take that anyways, which is going to take me up to a momentum of 8. So let's go ahead and ask our action and theme to see what kind of insight we get from this. So for the action, 49, which is Fortify, and 80, Fortify Solution. Fortify Solution. This is a new insight, but it creates a complication. So I think she finds some interesting tidbits as she's going through the computer system. And I think one of those tidbits is that there is a member of the higher ranking corporate staff that put forward a series of suggested changes to the way that they construct and maintain the domes that in his estimation would have saved the company money, and he was basically ignored and passed over for that because there would have been a large kind of initial investment in order to overhaul all the domes. And so the corporate leadership decided that that was not going to be necessarily the most cost-effective way to handle things. And so his idea was passed over. And Lida discovers as she's going through, he was passed over for another promotion. Actually, Secretary Farshell is the one who got the promotion to secretary over this individual. That individual did get shunted into a different sort of like research vein and is still with the company, but isn't necessarily in the position that they were originally heading towards with their career trajectory. And so this is a little bit interesting, I think, to Lida. She views that as a possible suspect for this espionage. So we are going to go ahead and mark a box of progress on our formidable vow. So we have 1 out of 10 marked, and we are going to go ahead and I think the complication here is probably going to be another tick on the clock. I think that makes the most sense as she spends some time rooting around in their computer system, and there are countermeasures that are beginning to catch on to the fact that there is someone poking around. So let's go ahead and get a name for this individual who is our prime suspect at the moment. And let's find out what they are called. So I'm going to roll on the character name table here. 35, which is going to be Fletcher. Yeah. So Fletcher, let's give him a last name. 43, Fletcher Metal. So Fletcher Metal is the prime suspect right now, and Lida is going to finish up her conversation with the maintenance worker and basically gets her questions answered and her concerns mollified. And Lida is going to head out and go back to the lobby. And then is there a way for her to leverage her position as this Titan Corporation representative to talk to Fletcher Metal? I think the only way that's possible is if the research avenue that he got shunted onto is in some sort of like defense or security related project. Something to make the domes into basically like standing shields for soldiers. I think it's unlikely that that's the case. So let's ask the Oracle. 26. No, he is working on a completely different project. So not something related to weapons or anything that Lida would be able to use her cover to get access to. So instead, she's going to leave the headquarters, and I think she is going to wait and try to watch as the corporate officers are coming and going, to wait for him to emerge so that she can follow him home and maybe gather more information on him. So now that she has this name, I think we can do a specific gather informations roll for that to see if she pulls up any information while she is waiting for him to leave the facility. So let's go ahead and roll plus wits and find out what happens. It's +3 on this. 9 on the action die, 9s on the challenge dice for a miss with another complication. Okay, so on a miss, your investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth that undermines your quest. This is not going well for Lida. So let's pay the price. 26. You are separated from something or someone. Okay, so I think once again, I'm going to have to go with the complication here is that the clock ticks down to 5 out of 8 segments as once again, security is sort of alerted to her presence as she is sitting there watching. I think the result of her waiting is that he comes out but gets into a vehicle. Like somebody pulls up and picks him up and they drive off, and she is unable to quickly follow them. So she essentially loses track of Fletcher as he is leaving the headquarters that evening. She is not really doing all that well for this mission. So I think she is going to wait until after dark, and I think she is going to opt for the more dangerous method of breaking into the headquarters and finding out the information that she needs in that way. So she waits. I think she probably goes back to the Killer Queen, gets her gear in order to break into the facility, and then she is going to return in the middle of the night. So when she returns, she is going to try and break in to this place. And the way that I'm going to handle this is I'm actually going to make this an expedition. So this is going to be infiltrate the Cavor Structures headquarters and gather information on Fletcher Metal. And I think this is going to be dangerous. I don't think it's going to be formidable. I think dangerous makes sense here. So when you trailblaze a route through perilous space, journey over hazardous terrain, or survey a mysterious site, give the expedition a name and rank. Then for each segment of the expedition, envision your approach. If you move at speed, roll plus edge. Keep under the radar, roll plus shadow. Stay vigilant, roll plus wits. So I definitely think for this one, we are going to be keeping under the radar. As Lida approaches the headquarters at night, she is going to draw out a few pieces of tech, and she finds a side door where she is going to attach this code breaker to the door's security panel so that she can hack into it and override the lock. So we're going to roll plus shadow. This is +3 on this. 6 on the action die. We've got a 6 and a 2 on the challenge dice. However, Because of the agent path, when you make a move to break into a secure site, infiltrate a protected area, or hack or manipulate a secure system, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. I think this qualifies as breaking into or infiltrating a protected area. So that's actually turn this into a 7, which is going to make it a strong hit. So I'm going to take momentum for the asset. And then on a strong hit, you reach a waypoint, envision the location, and mark progress per the rank of your expedition. So we are going to mark 2 boxes of progress on our dangerous expedition to infiltrate the Cavor structures as we make our way into the facility. Now, there are some oracle tables for exploring derelict and for exploring stuff like that. So I am going to kind of use those, even though this isn't actually a derelict. I'm going to use those as a jumping off point. So our access area, we're going to roll to see what this is. 42 corridor. Okay, so it is pretty straightforward. Lida pops open the door and is going to be able to access the door, slide it open, and slip inside without being noticed. So she makes her way down this corridor, and as she does so, she is going to once again attempt to keep under the radar. So we're going to roll plus shadow again as we undertake the next leg of our expedition. My goodness gracious. 5 on the action die, 2 10s on the challenge dice for another miss with a complication. So on a miss, you are waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Do not mark progress and pay the price. Let's roll our pay the price. Should change out these challenge dice. 98. Roll twice, of course. Why not? So I got 15, which is you face the consequences of an earlier choice. And 57, your equipment or vehicle malfunctions. Okay, so Lida is making her way down this corridor. She is heading towards the next security checkpoint. And as she goes, she sees a patrol coming. She ducks into a small alcove where there's a door, which is locked, of course. And as she's ducking in, she sees that one of the figures that is part of this security team is the young man that she talked down in the bar the previous night. And once again, it's possible that if he sees her, he will recognize her, but she turns to use her security override on that door that she's hiding against, and she finds that it is shorted out. There was a power surge or something happened in the previous door, and she cannot break through with that, which means she's going to have to try and hack into it herself before that group arrives. So I think this is going to be just a straight up face danger as she tries to quickly hack her way in. And I'm going to say this is going to be either Shadow or Wits. I feel like it could be either, but since they're the same number, it's not really going to matter. So +3 on this, +1 because I am an agent trying to hack my way in. That is 7 on the action die, a 6 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So you succeed, but at a troublesome cost. Make a suffer move. All right, so we are going to, I think, take a hit to spirit as the tension of trying to hack into this door as the footsteps are echoing down the corridor. Lida is working away. She's focused, but she knows that she is seconds away from being discovered by the security team when the door unlocks she slips inside and closes it behind her and breathes a sigh of relief as they pass by. So she is going to attempt to continue on once again with Shadow. Here we go. 4 on the action die, a 2 and a 1 on the challenge dice for another strong hit. So we're going to hit another waypoint so we can mark 2 more boxes of progress on our infiltration here. And we need a waypoint. So I'm going to roll my D100 on the settlement portion of the derelict zone and see what kind of place this is. 51 is medical. So she continues back out the door, through the corridor, down. She bypasses that door and she makes her way on, and she finds herself in a medical wing. What kind of area is it? 3. It's a crematorium. That's a little creepy. Why would there be a crematorium in this building? So she makes her way into the medical research because, corporations do a whole bunch of different things. And this corporation is focused on building these domes, but there are probably lots of different applications for this dome technology. And so there's probably a lot of different tests and stuff that could be performed. So there is a medical wing, and she finds this crematorium. What kind of feature does she find in here? 71 medical monitors. Okay, so it is a crematorium, and there are monitors on the wall that show a number of tests. And I think what she discovers in here is that they are actually trying to do research on preserving pieces of a body in a crematorium. And so it's basically an injectable or implantable dome creator that can be used to balloon out over a body as it's being cremated as a way to preserve the body, possibly for nefarious purposes, as a way to gather physical specimens for more research. She's not really sure, and we're not going to take the time to explore this waypoint to determine more about that. As we continue on past this medical section, we are going to continue rolling plus Shadow, and we have 9 on the action die, a 6 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So we can mark 2 more boxes of progress, which takes us to 6 out of 10. And we are going to either have to make a suffer move or 2 suffer moves or face a peril at the waypoint. So let's go ahead and find out what our waypoint is. Are we still in the medical section, or have we moved to something else? 3, community. So this would be like a community zone, could be any number of things. So let's roll on our area to see what it is. 83. It is a new zone. Okay. So let's go back to our zone here. And 39 is living. Okay, so it's a community zone that leads into living quarters. And what does that mean? 11, galley or kitchen. Okay, so Lida makes her way into the commissary of this particular area, and there are a number of people sitting around a table eating and talking. So they're part of the late shift crew, and they are talking over whatever their assignment is. That's not important. What is important is that in order to get to the other side of this room, Lida is going to have to try and sneak through. Now, I think because it's the middle of the night, there are corners of this commissary that are dark, as they're on basically power saving mode with the lights and stuff like that. So it's not impossible but she is going to have to attempt to sneak her way across using her stealth and trickery. So plus shadow on this, face danger. 8 on the action die, a 2 and a 10 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So succeed, but at a troublesome cost. Make a suffer move. So once again, this is going to be a -1 to 1 of her tracks. I think spirit makes sense, as it is again another tense situation as she makes her way through this commissary where these people are eating and talking and very easily could see her. But she makes it to the other side, and she is going to continue with the expedition. Continuing with shadow. 9 on the action die, a 5 and a 10 on the challenge dice for another weak hit. So more progress. It's going to take us up to 8 out of 10 boxes of progress, but we're going to face another peril at the waypoint. So once again, let's roll on our zone to see if we've moved out of the living zone. 75. Production. So we've moved into the production zone. What is this production zone? 30. It is equipment storage. Okay, so it is this large room with all of these various sized dome generators. And I'm picturing this as there are multiple types of domes. So they have some domes that are actually a like physical barrier that is around the whole area. There may be smaller domes that have a generator that then radiates out like an energy shield that surrounds the area. They're playing with a bunch of different options. And I think this is where we are going to go ahead and complete our expedition, as Lida, I think, has found a place where she can hole up and do a little bit more investigation. And since she's in the production zone, she knows that he works on a like research project that is under production. She may be able to find information here in this area. So we are going to go ahead and finish our expedition here. And this is going to be roll the challenge dice, comparing it against our 8 progress to see what happens. 3 and a 9, which is a weak hit. So on a weak hit, as above, but you face an unforeseen complication at the end of your expedition. Make the legacy reward 1 rank lower and envision what you encounter. So for this, when you complete a survey or reach your destination, mark a reward on your Discovery's legacy track per the expedition's rank. So normally this was a dangerous expedition. I would mark 2 ticks, but because it is a weak hit, it's going to be 1 less than that. So we're going to mark on our Discovery's track 1 tick, and then we are going to have to figure out what this unforeseen complication is in this place. So let's go back to our action and theme. See if that tells us anything. For action, it is going to be 35. Depart. 29. Dream. Depart, dream. So there's a complication, depart, dream. So we know that this Fletcher had this vision of fundamental changes to the way that they build the domes that would be cost-saving but are expensive up front. And I think we discover that he has put on a project that is very different than that and is all about bolstering the existing domes. And that because of that, he is not very sort of passionate about this work. So he comes in, shows up, but there are other researchers and workers who are still here working on this project as Lida is making her way through. And the complication here is that she could potentially, once again, get caught and found out because she's not going to have free reign of this area. But that's okay, because at the moment, she has made her way to the workplace where she needs to be, and we can go ahead and attempt to gather some information on Fletcher. And I think I'm actually going to go ahead and mark a progress on her vow to find the leak at Cavor Structures. We still don't know if it's actually him, but she is unfettered inside of this headquarters, and she's going to be able to hopefully gather some information and figure out what her next step is. So let's go ahead and gather the information, rolling plus wits. This is +3. 7 on the action die, a 1 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, the information provides new insight, but also complicates your quest. Envision what you discover, then take +1 momentum. I don't know that Lida needs another complication, so it may seem silly at the moment, but I have 9 momentum. I'm going to burn it right now down to 2 to turn this into a strong hit. So on a strong hit, you discover something helpful and specific. The path you must follow or action you must take to make progress is made clear. Envision what you learn, then take +2 momentum. So I'm going to gain back 2 of that momentum that I just burned. And then let's go ahead and ask the Oracle, is Fletcher the person who is leaking this information? I think it's likely. 26 or greater. 57, yes. Okay, so we now know for a fact, even if Lida doesn't yet know that Fletcher is the person that she is hunting for. So what information does she get about Fletcher here in this place that could tell her what she needs to do next? Let's roll on action and theme. 34. Demand. 50. Demand labor. So she figures out that he has been making his own designs, and she finds an encrypted note in basically one of these schematics that is a note to himself of basically go to the secondary site and test this new power generation system. It seems to be more promising. So that tells her that Fletcher has a location where he is doing research and work outside of the corporate headquarters. So she is going to get another tick on this vow, and then she is going to make her way back out of the facility with this information. So we are going to roll this all up into a face danger as she makes her way out of the facility. See if she gets out unnoticed. So we're going to roll plus shadow. This is +3 once again. 9 on the action die, an 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So successful, but at a troublesome cost. Make a suffer move. So this time I'm going to take that suffer to the supply, as I think she has to use a few more of her gadgets and devices in order to get out of the facility. So having made her way back to the Killer Queen, she knows that there is a secondary location where Fletcher is doing his own private research. She figures it's probably funded by whatever money he has made based off of these corporations. And I think she has enough information from the corporate data files that she was able to pull from in order to try and figure out more about him as a person. So she is going to once again do some gathering of information with plus wits to do some research on him as a person. 6 on the action die, a 3 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So this information provides new insight, but also complicates your quest. Envision what you discover, then take +1 momentum. So what do we gain from this? What information do we learn? Let's find out. We've got a 2 on action, which is acquire, and the theme is 97, acquire weakness. Okay, so the dome that this Cavor Corporation is in, it's probably one of the first domes that was built here on Tempora Hasta. And as such, probably it has more age to it. And so there are sections of the dome that have been closed off and sealed off by newer panels, newer parts of the dome, because I'm envisioning this as a physical dome, not one of these ones where there's like an energy shield around it. It is an actual like transparent physical dome that is surrounding this corporate city. And as such, there are places where the dome started to break down. And I think probably the corporation has closed off portions of the city and blocked them off so that citizens couldn't get to them. And I think as Lida is exploring this, she finds one of these that is referenced as being closed off, but is also still drawing power and is drawing a little bit more power than would make sense for a decommissioned portion of the city. And so I think she looks at it and she figures that that is the location where he has his base. However, I think when she, goes to the Queen's cockpit and tells Anglist to scan that area, there is interference, as if there is something blocking their scans, which makes sense. You wouldn't want the corporation randomly scanning the city and wondering why there are, a bunch of technological signs and life signs or whatever is there. Don't know how many people Fletcher has working with him, but she detects this and realizes that this is going to be a delicate operation. So she discovers this, she looks at the data, she finds a schematic of the old dome and realizes that she could go to the place where that section has been blocked off and probably find some sort of access hatch or something like that to get in. But she figures that there is some probably pretty intense security on that hatch to keep corporate security personnel from finding it. So she is going to look at it. I think she turns to Anglist and she says, Anglist, what do you think? Do you think we should come at it from the outside? Anglist looks at it and says, we'll have to suit up, but that seems to be the most straightforward way other than trying to blow our way right through the main door. I agree. Take the ship out, get us to a safe distance where we can land on the surface, and then we will make our way to the outside of the dome, and we will find a service hatch and find our way in. As you say, Lida. And Anglist is going to fire up the Killer Queen. They are going to fly out and away from the city, and they are going to land, and then they're going to have to trek their way in towards the dome. So I'm going to mark another progress as they have found a location of some sort where they are headed. And we are then going to, I think, ask the Oracle in this case if they run into any dangers on their way in. So let's go ahead and say, I think it's 50-50. 51. Yes, they do. All right. What kind of danger do they run into? Is it a creature? I think that's probably likely. So 26 or greater. 90 is yes. Yes, it is. So they are suited up in a little bit heavier of suits. So deep skins are environmental suits, and they can have helmets that they seal to them. They can also have metal pieces, deuteronium pieces that magnetize to the deep skins to form armor. And the deep skins are made out of like nanofiber that can move and adjust if like torn. It can self-repair. There is basically like a hood that can grow out of the rest of the suit and cover your face and head. If, for instance, you were in your starship flying and your hull was breached and you were pulled out into the vacuum of space, it would automatically seal over your head so that you weren't exposed to the rigors of the vacuum of space for all that long. But you can also then attach an actual like helmet to it, which is what they've got right now. Anglist has some duotronium armor attached to his deep skin, and he is carrying a kinetic rifle. And Lida keeps her suit pretty light. She's got a little extra padding, but it is not going to weigh her down if she needs to move. They are making their way across this open swamp area, and as they are headed in, they hear what sounds like howling in the distance. It's a strange sort of howling, and let's go ahead and find out what kind of creature they're going to encounter. So we're going to call this a land creature. And 90. A worm, slug, or larva. Okay, so let's give ourselves a first look here, and we should probably also roll on the scale to see how big it is. 93, which is huge, or whale-sized. So they are walking along, and they hear this slithering sound through the swamp, and this massive worm-like head emerges out of one of the pools. And what's our first look that we get here? 80, an oversized mouth. This is great coming off the trail of having just watched Dune, as this massive worm emerges and this great maw opens up. And is it aggressive to them? I think it is 50-50 if it's aggressive. 9. So it is not aggressive per se, but what does that mean for this area here? Because obviously something is happening that, like, they're crossing this area and it is causing some sort of disturbance. So it's not that it is hostile to them. So I think what it does is then it crashes down and is like slithering across the swamp marsh in front of them, and they are essentially cut off from the path that they were following, and they could wait for this huge creature to pass, or they could try to make their way around it. And I think that's what they're going to do, because I think the longer they're out here, the longer they're exposed, the more likelihood that something will come along that would love to take a bite out of them. So I think they're going to try and basically use the built-in thrusters in the deep skin, which are really more for use in the vacuum of space, to give themselves a little bit of a boost to get over this creature as it's passing by. And we are going to face danger with edge. This is going to be +2 on this, But I think because Anglist, her bodyman and pilot, he is former Imperial Special Service. And so he is a very active, athletic person who has dealt with a lot of challenging situations. And so he is going to be able to assist her. So when you make a move outside of a fight directly aided by their expertise, you may re-roll your action die if its value is less than your sidekick's health. So his health is 4 right now. I'm going to roll my face danger with edge, and we'll see what happens. 7 on the action die, 2 4s on the challenge dice. No need to re-roll the action die because 5 is greater than 4. And we get a strong hit with a match. So that's going to increase our momentum. And I think they are able to, with the help of these thrusters, vault over this worm as it is slithering by. And I think they actually see a couple more of them, but they're further in the distance, so they're able to hurry up and get past. But I think the match here, the opportunity that they get, is that it covers any sort of tracks that they might have left. So if there are any patrols out here or any ships flying by that are like scanning the surface of the planet, they're not going to find any trace of this passage. They're just going to see these big worm divots in the marsh. They make their way to the outer dome, and when they arrive, they look around for a little bit, they find a hatch, and then Lida is going to attempt to override the security on it in order to get them inside. So this is going to be plus wits, and she's going to take +1 as she is again trying to infiltrate a protected area. So this is +4. 10 on the action die, a 9 and a 4 on the challenge dice, which is a strong hit. So that's +1 momentum for face danger and +1 momentum for the asset. So that takes us to 8 momentum total as Lida is able to overcome the security, and they make their way into this sequestered part of the Cavor Structures dome. And I think that's good for another box of progress. That takes us to 5 out of 10 boxes of progress for this mission. So as they move inside this section of the dome, let's go ahead and ask the Oracle, is Fletcher working alone? I think it's 50-50. 72 is a yes. So he does not have anyone else that he is working with. Does he have some sort of security? I'm thinking in the form of like security bots or drones or something like that. I think it's likely. 88 is a yes, and 88 is a match, which means that there is some sort of complication, or it makes an interesting twist to the prompt here. So I think as they emerge into this section of the dome, they see a small building that has basically, it looks like a small like hangar, and there are drones patrolling the area around this warehouse. And as they're looking at them, Anglist goes, those are state-of-the-art drones. They look like they are almost brand new. And Lida says, yes, I think they look familiar. Do either Anglist or Lida recognize these drones? I'm going to say it's 50-50. 39, no. So she says, but you've seen one drone, you've seen them all. Come on, Anglist, let's go. Let's try to make our way around past those drones. And they are going to attempt to sneak forward into the hangar. So this is going to be with face danger and stealth. So this is shadow. +3 on this. 5 on the action die. 2 8s on the challenge dice for a miss with a complication. I've rolled a lot of complications and a couple opportunities. So they are seen. They are spotted by the drones as they are outside, and the drones activate as they are seen. Anglus says, "Oh no, they've seen us. Better get to cover." And they run and make their way over to cover, at which point we are going to enter the fray. When you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective and give it a rank. So defeat the drones, and we're going to give this another dangerous rank. If the combat includes discrete challenges or phases, set an objective with a rank for each, then roll to see if you are in control. If you are on the move, roll plus edge. Facing off against your foe, roll plus heart. In the thick of it, at close quarters, roll plus iron. Preparing to act against an unaware foe, roll plus shadow. Caught in a trap or sizing up the situation, roll plus wits. So they were making their way across. They got seen. Anglus, being the good soldier that he is, immediately moves for cover. Lida stands and sort of with a smile on her face draws her 2 Rhinax laser pistols, one named Liesel, the other named Darwina, and she is going to face off against her foe. So we're going to roll plus heart because she is a gunslinger. So we're rolling plus heart, and we're going to add +1 to this as well. So this is +5 to this roll. 9 on the action die, a 4 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So I get to take a momentum on a hit, so that's going to take me up to 9 momentum, but it was a weak hit. So this is going to be, I have to choose either +2 momentum or to be in control. I will choose to take control. So Lida is going to draw the twin laser pistols, and she is going to fire with edge at these 2. This is +2. Here we go. 4 on the action die, 2 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, mark progress twice, but you expose yourself to danger. You are in a bad spot. So we are going to mark 4 boxes of progress on this track as it is dangerous, and with a progress mark we would mark 2 boxes. So we're at 4 out of 10 progress, and then we are going to expose ourselves to danger, and we are in a bad spot. So she draws forth the twin laser pistols and fires at one of the drones and obliterates it with several laser blasts. As it comes crashing down, the other drones turn and target her and are going to unleash a barrage of fire. She is going to, at this point, attempt to duck into cover, and to do so, she is going to use edge once again to try to flee, dodge, and get into position, or take cover. +2 on this. 6 on the action die, a 5 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. So she succeeds and is in control, and is going to take +1 momentum. So she is going to, from cover, call out to Anglus to maneuver around to the other side, and she is going to basically order him to fire on them from a alternate position. And so she's trying to coordinate a plan here. We're going to roll plus wits, which is +3 on this gain ground. 7 on the action die, a 10 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, we get to choose one. I can mark progress, take momentum, or add +1 to the next move. I'm going to choose to take progress, as that is going to take us to 6 out of 10 boxes. And because I maintain control, I am going to strike as Anglist has moved around to his alternative position, and I'm going to roll plus edge as we continue to fire at the other drones. +2 on this. 4 on the action die, a 4 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a miss, but I have 10 momentum, which I'm burning right now to turn that into a strong hit. So on a strong hit, mark progress twice. You dominate your foe and stay in control. Marking progress twice is going to take us all the way up to 10 boxes of progress, and we are going to go ahead and roll our take decisive action as we move to end the fight. So they are picking off drones left and right, working in a very coordinated fashion as they have done over the last several years that they have worked together. And we are going to roll our 2d10 and compare it against our progress of 10. 2 8s, which is a strong hit with another match, and that's an opportunity. So on a strong hit, you prevail. Take +1 momentum, and we have no more objectives in this fight. So we're going to go ahead and say that that is the end of the fight. And I think our opportunity here is that we can mark progress on our vow, which is going to take us to 6 out of 10 boxes as Lida and Anglist blast the last of the drones. They hear cursing coming from inside the warehouse and like a clattering, and they quickly rush to the door, and I think they see Fletcher trying to make a run for the back door, but because of the positioning that they had, Anglist and Lida ran to different doors, and they're able to cut him off. And I think as they both emerge into this warehouse, they are able to draw a bead on him, and Lida says, "Fletcher, that's far enough." And Fletcher freezes and turns and looks at the two of them, and he says, Who are you?" Lida says, "Who we are is unimportant. What matters is that you have been caught. You've been selling secrets to your corporate rivals. That is not something that your employers are very fond of." Fletcher says, What, are you here? You're here to turn me in, or are you here to kill me?" Lida says, "Haven't decided yet. Now come back this way, and I'm sure we can come to an arrangement. Look, I don't want to kill you. It's not what I'm paid to do. But if you do anything foolish, like try to call more drones, or really anything at all, my friend, who is a much better shot than I am, will be forced to put you down." To which Anglist says, "Wait a minute, I don't think I agreed to that." And Lida says, "Dear, don't argue with me in front of the mark, please." Anglist shoulders his kinetic rifle and continues pointing it at poor Fletcher, who is at this point shaking. And Lida says, "Now come back and we can talk about this. I promise you will come to no harm, but there are going to be consequences, I can assure you of that. Now come back and let's have a conversation." And she's going to try and compel him into standing down and not doing anything foolish. This is going to be plus heart, which is +4. 6 on the action die, a 2 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So on a weak hit, as above, meaning they will agree to your conditions, but their agreement comes with a demand or complication. Envision their counteroffer. So I think he says, "Oh, wait. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to. Look, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm trying to make these domes safer for the people that live in them. Look at this place. Before I came along, this place was falling apart. It was so bad that the corporation just blocked it off and just left it because they didn't want to put the money into repairing it. But since I came in here, I've been able to reinforce and change the way that the panels are constructed, and it is better for it. It's safer. It's safer for all of our people. It's safer for our customers. They won't listen to me. And he says, yes, I charged the other corporations for the information, but only so that I could pay for this, so that I could prove that my research was worthwhile. I really don't want to get thrown into a cell for the rest of my life. Is there any way around this? Please, I just want to be able to help people with this technology. And Anglist, who I think has a little bit of a softer heart than Lida Blaster, lowers his rifle a little bit and looks over at her and says, "It sounds like he's telling the truth. I don't think he's smart enough to lie. No offense." And Fletcher kind of like shrugs a little bit. Lida, still having one of the pistols trained on him, looks like she's thinking, and she says, "I always complete my contracts. That is something of a personal reputation for me, and I'm not going to destroy that reputation because you couldn't find a way other than selling company secrets in order to fund your research. But I understand your concern. I respect your desire to save the people here. Here's what I'll do. I will kill you." And Fletcher like flinches and like raises his hands, and Anglist sort of looks over at her and says, "Lida, you're really scaring him. I'm sorry. Not literally. I will tell your employers that you attempted to resist and you were killed. But as part of this arrangement, you're going to have to do something for me." And Fletcher says, "Okay, what is it?" She says, "You're going to have to find new friends and a new way to do your work. There are workers here who are trying to mobilize, and at some point the corporation's going to notice. At some point they're not going to appreciate what those workers are trying to do. And if you want to help save people, if you want to change the way that the corporation runs its business, you're going to have to be part of that. These domes are impressive, I admit. Your work is impressive from what I've seen. If you agree to work with the workers and provide them with domes that they can use to protect themselves when the security forces come, then I will kill you and also save your life." And Fletcher nods and says, "Okay, I can do that. Absolutely. I believe me, I just want to help people." "I believe you. Now, let's find a way to cover this up. And we are going to go ahead and mark another box of progress, which is going to take us to 7 boxes of progress. And we are going to now fulfill our vow. So this is going to determine how well Lida's attempt to cover up this fake death and the operation here goes. So I've got 7 progress. I've got 2d10 to roll against my progress. Let's find out how it goes. I've got a 4 and a 1 on the challenge dice against my 7 progress, which is a strong hit. So on a strong hit, your vow is fulfilled. Mark a reward on your quest's legacy track per the vow's rank. So this was formidable, which means it's going to be 1 box of progress on the quest legacy track, which is going to grant 2 experience, which is awesome. So in the aftermath, Lida burns down the warehouse. She destroys the drones and leaves enough evidence to show that someone was working on a project here. But when she returns to Secretary Farshel, she tells him, "I've taken care of your little problem. It was one of your researchers, a man by the name of Fletcher Metal. He was disgruntled over some of your business practices. The fact that you wouldn't listen to him when he had some improvements in mind for your domes. He was selling secrets and trying to save up enough money to buy his way off-world and find a little quiet place to retire. Unfortunately, when we arrived, he tried to resist, and in the explosion, he was killed." Secretary Farshel says, "Well, it's unfortunate. We mourn the loss of life, but I suppose it's better in the long run. We can clean up this mess and then be done with this whole affair." Yes. Yes, we can be done with this. Well, I suppose you are ready for your other half of the payment. Yes, I am, and I will be leaving shortly. Of course. Let me transfer it. They transfer the funds to Lida's account. She and Anglist board the Killer Queen, and Anglist lifts the ship off the docking platform and flies it up into space. As they're leaving Tempora Hasta behind, Anglist says, "Do you think they have a chance? Do you think they are going to be able to make changes in that corporation?" Lida looks at the screen as the planet is disappearing into the distance. She says, "Anglist, I have seen the highest forms of society. I've seen the lowest. We've been many places in the universe in our travels together, and we've seen many things. If there's one thing that I know for certain, it's that when good people put their minds to a task, there's almost nothing that can stop them." Almost nothing? At this, Lida looks off in the distance of space, a little sad, a little contemplative, and says, "Yes, almost nothing." And the Killer Queen's astrodrive spools up, and they accelerate towards the Celerity Conduit. Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures, and thanks so much to Syrinscape for the lovely ambient sounds and music throughout the episode. If you enjoyed the show, please tell anyone and everyone in your life about it. And if you haven't already, please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really does help others find me. If you want to interact with me, my handle on Instagram and Twitter is @ErrantSoloPod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.